What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here, back with another NFL draft rankings list. In this video, I'm giving you my favorite wide receivers in this year's NFL draft, ranking the best prospects at the wide receiver position entering the 2022 NFL draft. So we are discussing all of the guys that I've been able to scout so far here early in April. I have scouted at least the top 10 consensus names in the draft class. And then from that list of consensus names, I have compiled my personal top 5 of that group. So this is going to be very interesting. Just as we did the quarterback position, this position is going to be equally, if not more interesting from my list. I feel like my list is quite different from the consensus. It's not totally different, but there's definitely going to be a couple names that are going to surprise you, or that you have maybe never even heard of if you are not following the draft very closely. And I'm going to be able to go through all those names and answer all of your questions about those players. On top of that, if you want to ask me about a player that didn't make my list, that is consensus in the top 5 or in the top 7 or whatever, then just let me know in the comments and I'll be sure to answer your question about that player, because after all, we're all going to have different opinions on players. I'm overall looking for just the best receivers for what I believe they're going to be able to do at the NFL level. The most transferable NFL talents, the guys that I think are going to be great at the next level. Now, they might have been great in college. They might have not produced the best numbers in college, but I'm looking for the skill sets that are going to be able to have success at the NFL level. And in this draft class, especially at the wide receiver position every year, there's always a multitude of different skill sets. Some receivers are great jump ball receivers. Some receivers have great speed and vertical ability. Some guys are shifty or route runner type guys. But I tried to compile my top 5 with different types of receivers, but I'm also looking for receivers that I feel could be good on a multitude of teams and schemes, and not trying to just put them into one particular scheme and that's where I think they'll thrive. Like, I'm trying to find the guys that would be successful in a majority of teams, and therefore the guys that are probably going to be drafted at the top of the draft because they probably have the most talent on top of that. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know how you're feeling. Appreciate everybody joining me here. Zeke, what's going on? Also, Brokey is in the chat. What's going on, Brokey? We've got Nicholas Gill and Tyson also leaving his list of the top 5 receivers. If you want to give me your top 5, your top 10, your top 7, your top whatever, then you can also give me your top 5 in the comment section here live. Now, let's get to the rankings. Again, I'm going to start with a couple honorable mentions for the list. So let's start off by saying this. Don't forget to Gronk spike the like button and subscribe to the channel for more BLV NFL draft content just like this. And if you guys continue to support these rankings videos, I'll continue to make them. But if I see that maybe not everybody's watching these videos, I'll start to post a couple mock drafts and some NFL draft stuff. But I understand that I cover a variety of stuff on the NFL, so draft rankings is not exactly my niche, but I'll continue to do it if you guys want to see it. So let me know in the comments if you want to see more and in specific positions you want to see more at. Okay, the wide receiver position. Let's begin with a few honorable mentions. Now, I basically have 3 honorable mentions and then my top 5. So the 3 guys that I considered for the top 5, but they were just on the outside looking in. And again, guys, these are the top 5 receivers in the draft. Like, it's hard to make the top 5 receivers, and everyone's going to have a different top 5. My honorable mentions, I've got Alec Pierce, currently at number 8. He played at Cincinnati. A big guy, he's been getting a lot of Jordy Nelson comps throughout his basically study that people are studying him. I look at him as a big, tall, fast receiver who could play on the outside, stretch the field vertically, maybe run some comebacks and some posts and some ins and, stuff like that. I'm not sold, though, that he's going to be a top 2 receiver in the NFL. I didn't see enough twitchiness for my liking in terms of his route running, in terms of his release and stuff. I thought he was very kind of one-dimensional. He was somebody I would have liked to have put in the top 5 because he has a skill set of 6'3", 213, 4'3", 340 that just off that alone, you would think maybe that's a boom prospect. So he's certainly going to make somebody happy if he can piece some of the aspects together. Like I said, though, I just didn't see enough twitchiness for him to separate and for him to get off the line and release and stuff like that. So that's why I didn't put Pierce in my top 5, but he is my number 8. Number 7, honorable mention here again, is Chris Olave of the Ohio State Buckeyes, and I know that that is going to be a shocker because he is in a lot of people's top 5 and maybe even in the top 2 or maybe even the number 1. So my reasoning on that, if you want to ask me questions about that, you can. So I thought Chris was very smooth receiver, doesn't lose a lot of speed in his routes, can definitely stretch the field vertically, but I did feel he was a little bit one-dimensional. When I watched him, he felt like a speed receiver and a speed receiver only that can kind of like a worse version of Will Fuller. I didn't see the pop that Will Fuller has in his game where it's like a vertical just threat, but I didn't see the all-around nature of his game, maybe that other people saw. I didn't see great after the catch. I saw kind of a skinnier player that's not good on contact or through press. I'm not sure how he's going to hold up in the NFL versus physical cornerbacks. So those are some of the things that I didn't love, but there's certainly a lot to like in terms of his speed, his change of pace within his routes, just the smoothness at which he runs his routes, and he can certainly break it open. If he has, a step on a corner, he's going to be able to break it open, but I didn't see enough of the breaking tackles, making people miss yards after catch, not a lot of wiggle that way. So he's certainly more, in my opinion, a role player, like a speed dimension to your offense than really a go-to receiver, which is why he's not in my top 5. Again, that's just my opinion. And my number 6 was Treylon Burks as well, another receiver who is in the top 5 for a lot of people, in the top 3 for a lot of people I've seen. And I don't know, maybe this is like the N'Keal Harry kind of thing, just hurting my view of this player. And I know to separate past players from current prospects, but he is a beast. I wanted to put him in the top 5. I was really close to putting him at top 5. He's 6'2", 225. And just off the bat, when I was watching him, I was like, this guy's unique. This guy has a unique body. He is a physical beast. He almost looks like a tight end, but in terms of the receiver stuff, I was not blown away by his route running. I was not blown away by his feet. And this is the exact same thing that I feel like N'Keal Harry struggled with, and I'm not trying to give that comp or anything, but I didn't see enough, again, twitchiness at the line of scrimmage. I did not see enough into his feet. I just didn't love his feet horizontally, like West Coast, to be able to make moves and to be able to separate. He's going to be great on 50-50 balls. He's going to be great to get the ball in his hands, but I didn't feel like he was a Deebo Samuel either, where he's just going to run away from people and explode. He certainly is a physical freak, though, and I do see him going high in the draft because of that. I just don't know how you really are going to be able to use him in the NFL, because he's more of a slot receiver that doesn't really have a lot of refined outside perimeter receiver traits. And I'm not sure, guys are going to have to manufacture him touches. And I don't know about him. I just feel like he's kind of out of place. I don't feel he can reliably be a number 1 receiver. I think he's like an add-on to your offense and has a lot of physical gifts, but I'm not sure he has a lot of wide receiver gifts, which is why I'm not putting him in the top 5. So yeah, I think he's definitely got upside, and I wouldn't be surprised if I was wrong about him. I just don't see enough from him. So Burks is my number 6 and my first honorable mention, or my top guy that just missed out on my list. So let's get to my top 5, which I think the first name on my top 5 is going to be heavily surprising. Guys, if you haven't already, make sure you Gronk spike that like button. So my number 5 is going to be Skyy Moore. Skyy Moore is my top 5 player, or my 5th wide receiver in the draft. I love Skyy Moore. I love this guy. He did give me, just for a comp, kind of Golden Tate vibes. He is, I thought, first off, he is the best at breaking tackles in this class. He actually set the record for broken tackles for a wide receiver. He is the twitchiest jitterbug type receiver in this class. He is, but what I love about him is he's got quickness and he's also thick. So he's strong, but he's also got the feet to be able to get by you. He has one of the best release packages in the draft. He gets off the line explosive. He doesn't really get pressed because he is thick. You know, he's got the ass and legs. So I love that combination of the twitchiness, the explosiveness, the strong nature to his game, but he's also a really good route runner, especially short and intermediate. He kills corners on slants and little option routes and things like that. And I certainly see him as a really good slot receiver in the NFL. I could see him being a Julian Edelman, being a Golden Tate, like that type of player. And he's also a weapon that, like I said, most missed tackles in the draft, you can get him the ball as a running back. You can get him the ball on a jet sweep. So he could do a lot of those different things. He's also just, I saw him on the perimeter. He played a majority of his snaps on the outside, and he was burning people down the field for a guy that is kind of smaller, and that's his only real trait that a lot of people don't like. He can still get by you down the field to be on the outside. So he could play on the outside, he could play on the inside, and he's unique to this class because I felt he was the twitchiest, and he's also got that compact body that I think is important at the NFL level. So looking at my scouting report overall for Skyy Moore, he's not going to wow you with size or anything. He's definitely shorter, and I think he's the shortest receiver in my top 5. And he doesn't have elite speed, but he's got good speed, and he certainly broke away from defenses after the catch multiple times. But like I said, great route runner, versatility, play strength, and I just really like this guy. I kind of have an affinity for these type of receivers. So I think he's a great second round pick and is going to be a very good number 2 receiver in the NFL. And what I also like about him is that he is a late convert to wide receiver. He actually played most of his football career at cornerback and then converted to wide receiver like 2 years ago in college. So he is still very, very fresh, but the sense that I get from him is a fearless, hardworking receiver that's only going to get better because he is just becoming a wide receiver early in his career. So I see a lot of upside with him as a slot receiver. Skyy Moore is my number 5 wide receiver in the draft. Let me know if you guys disagree. I know that that's kind of a hot take. Let me know if you like it or you dislike it or what you think about the player. My next wide receiver is going to shock some people. My number 4 wide receiver is Garrett Wilson. So Garrett Wilson is, for a lot of people, the number 1 receiver in the NFL. And he was the first receiver I watched in the class. And this might have actually hurt him in a way because over the last couple of years, right, these receiving drafts have been so strong, like so good that when you're watching Jamar Chase and you're watching Jalen Waddle and you're watching Justin Jefferson, you're expecting Justin Jefferson, right? When I'm watching Garrett Wilson as the first receiver in the class, I had to go back and watch him twice just to make sure like that I was on or off with this evaluation. But this is what I'll say, and this is the biggest reason he's number 4. He's good at everything. He's good at everything, but he's not elite in any category. He's not very fast. I mean, he's fast, but he's not very fast. He's got good hands, but not the best hands. He's an okay route runner. A lot of people say that's the weakness of his game. He's been very productive, and I feel like production is something that I don't really care about. Like, you guys know, I don't even look at the stats. I don't know what his stats were. I don't care. I just watch the games, and I see how he got his production. So when I first watched him, I was like, well, he's kind of getting production like any receiver could do this. You know, he's catching the ball on a PA boot in the flat. Like, okay. He's running by in a broken coverage, wide open. Like, okay, I could do that too. You know what I mean? Or like a screen and stuff. And I'm like, okay, so his production is going to be really good because they manufacture him the ball. And then for whatever reason, he's wide open and these busted coverages all over the place. And Ohio State does a really good job at getting their receivers in a position where they can succeed and they can be set up with like a safety one-on-one. And then obviously a receiver of this talent is going to beat a safety from Minnesota on a post and be wide open. So he's going to be a first rounder, and he might be the first receiver drafted. Now let's get to the positives and stuff like that, because I feel like I've been a bit negative. But like I said, good at everything, but didn't wow me in any category. Now, looking at his strengths and his weaknesses, his strengths, I do think his play strength is one of his strengths. Like, his ability to fight through press and contact is pretty impressive. Also, just in terms of his yards after catch, he is a pretty strong guy where he can stiff arm players, safeties, linebackers, stuff like that. He's also surprisingly shifty for the type of receiver he is. You don't expect him to have the yards after catch moves, the jukes, the little stutter steps, things like that. That he can be able to maneuver in just to get the extra few yards. Like, he's not going to be a receiver that catches a 20-yard pass and makes it a 50-yard touchdown, but he is the type of receiver where he could catch a 7-yard pass and make it a 12-yard pass or a 12-yard catch. Like, he can juke one guy, juke the second guy, and then he'll get tackled. But he won't, like, juke a guy and then he's gone, like Tyreek Hill, for example, because he doesn't have that type of breakaway speed. But also what I like about him in his route running is his ability to change gears, in his routes, and say he's going one speed, set a corner up, and then hit the accelerator and then be able to get to that next speed. He has strong hands. I definitely think his hands are consistent, and his body control is impressive in the air to be able to kind of contort his body and get himself to the football to make plays. So those are all his strengths, in my opinion. His weaknesses, I mean, I'm a big guy that loves speed. I love explosiveness, and Garrett Wilson didn't come across as the most explosive receiver in the class. Like I said, a lot of production versus kind of easy blown coverages that I thought is kind of being overrated, or like him being set up with a situation that he should be able to win. So I don't really look at that as a wow thing. He's also a little bit of an overseller in his routes in terms of he tries to do too much. Like, he'll be a little bit choppy. He'll try to throw in a couple extra like little jukes with his feet or with his head, and it's like not really needed. It's kind of the Jerry Jeudy thing, although I would say Jerry Jeudy was definitely a better route runner coming out. But Wilson, I would say when I watched him, and I know this is kind of like a comp for a lot of people, like in terms of like every receiver, but he did give me, like, not in terms of like necessarily the player, but I feel like he could be utilized similarly to like a Keenan Allen. Like, I feel like he's going to be more of a technical receiver in the NFL. He's not going to really like burn people. He's not going to make people pay for being one-on-one on the perimeter, which is why he's not in my top 3. But he's going to be able to route you up. He's going to be able to make catches like consistently and catch like 6 to 7 balls and that type of thing. But it's not going to be like over the top. We've got to shift our coverage to cover this guy type of thing. So that's why, in my opinion, he's not a top 3 receiver in this class. But that's just my opinion because people have him number 1. And I think people have him number 1 because he is very well-rounded and he doesn't have a lot of flaws, which I concede. But I do think that he's just missing elite traits, which is why I wouldn't draft him super high in the draft, but I would probably pick him in the first round. All right, so that is Garrett Wilson. Hopefully that makes sense. If you have any other questions about him, let me know. My next receiver in the draft, my number 3 receiver is Drake London of USC. He was the second receiver I watched in this draft class. Drake London, I like a lot. He instantly gave me Mike Evans vibes. Like, just his what I love about him and why I think he'll be great at the next level is he is a phenomenal 50-50 ball receiver. Like, phenomenal. He goes up, he snatches the football in the air like nobody's business. Like, he's unbelievable in that regard. But he's also way, way quicker than a person that big should be in terms of his route running ability. Like, his ability to cut at the intermediate and short levels of the field is what's going to make him a good number 1 receiver. He's going to be a number 1 receiver at one point. He might start off a little bit slow in terms of, like, his development, maybe because the injuries and stuff, but I do feel like he is going to be a really good player. Like, I really look at these top 3 guys as being potential stars. So, like, the separation between the 3 is not a lot. But Drake London, to me, is like Mike Evans. Like, you can move him everywhere. Left, right, center, perimeter, inside slot. He can run routes, intermediate level and deep. But the reason he's not in my top 2 is he doesn't separate a lot. Like, a lot of his production is contested. He kind of has that basketball background. So that is something that slightly concerned me to not allow him to be the number 1 or number 2. But he jumped out to me instantly as a guy that just wowed me with his ability to just make catches. And at USC, he was the target on every single play. Like, every single time they needed a play, they just threw it to him. It didn't matter if he was covered. It didn't matter if he was open. They just threw him the ball up, right? So his hang time in the air is phenomenal. He snatches the football, great hands. I felt like he had the best hands in the class for me. Huge catch radius, violent after the catch. I loved his ability after the catch to break tackle, stiff arm people, run people over. Great in the screen game for that. You know, he's not super fast or super quick, but his ability to just break tackles was impressive. And like I said, the reason I really like him, because typically you guys know I'm not really a big contested catch receiver. Like, I don't love those type of receivers. But his ability to be a little bit twitchier than I thought is why I'm sold on him being a great player. And then weaknesses, his acceleration. He's not going to run by people down the field. He's not going to really separate a ton in his routes, but he can. And he's not explosive. Like, when he gets the ball, he's going to be able to break tackles and make extra yards, but he's not going to run by everybody. So those are his weaknesses. So Drake London, big fan of. I even tweeted that, but he's definitely a first-round pick. I would pick him probably in the top 20, and I think he's going to be a very good player, and I like him a lot as my number 3 guy. So as you can tell, I really like the top 3 guys in particular. My number 2 wide receiver, which is going to be pretty surprising to a lot of people, but unless you follow me on Twitter, I don't know. If you follow me on Twitter, you won't be that surprised. But my number 2 is Christian Watson of North Dakota State. Christian Watson, I don't get this at all, bro. This guy, like, wowed me. Like, I was, like, watching this guy, I'm like, where is he going in the draft? Like, where do people have him in mock drafts? I'm watching this absolute freak show. Like, this guy is a freak. He's 6'4", and I mean this in the greatest compliment ever, okay? He's 6'4". He's 208. He runs a 4.3. And he is the most explosive, fastest guy in this class in terms of just, like, when he got the ball, I put Randy Moss's jersey up. This guy was hurdling people. Like, this isn't human, this stuff that I'm watching on the tape. Like, I don't know what everyone else is watching. This is DK Metcalf type of, like, vibes. Like, this guy is a freak. I don't care who he's playing. He could have, if he was playing at Alabama, he'd be a top 10 pick without a shadow of a doubt. Like, his explosion was far superior to tons of receivers. His snap, like if he's running like a stop and go, for example, or like a double move, he snaps so quick for a guy at 6'4" to be able to turn on the jets like that. That's not human. Like that doesn't happen. Like that is special type of stuff here. And yes, he played lower competition, but he absolutely dominated. Like he didn't belong there. He's running, the one thing I will say is he is a very like vertical guy right now. I'm not sure what he's going to be at the NFL in terms of the short like routes and stuff, but again, like DK Metcalf basically in his second year in the NFL went for like 1,500 yards. He ran goes, posts, slants, and that's about it. Like Watson isn't a bad route runner whatsoever, but he's kind of going to be like the comeback, the curl, the slant, the post, like double moves. He's going to have like the Randy Moss route tree, but he's going to be more of the player that catches 5 catches for like 150 yards and a touchdown type of guy than he is going to be like a 10 catch, 140 yards, like Michael Thomas type of guy. But he has swagger. I love that about him. Like he just looks different. He just feels different. He's got all the confidence in his ability. His leaping ability is off the charts. He's got good contested catch ability. It's not Drake London, but it is really nice. He fights through contact. He's stronger than most people out there, if not all. I loved his blocking, by the way. His blocking was impressive. He was bullying people in blocking game. But to me, he's more electric. He's more fast. He's more burst than he is power, for sure. And the thing that really made me feel like he was different was when he was returning kicks and he was getting handoffs in the backfield. Like receivers that just run straight don't get handoffs. Like that stuff doesn't happen. So yes, he played a lower level of competition, but if you guys haven't gone back and watched him play, he is pretty awesome to watch. And I don't understand why with his measurables and his tape, he's not like a locked and loaded top 20 pick. Like I really don't understand. Maybe I'm missing something. But yeah, and I believe I saw a stat from Warren Sharp that said that he had the most production for any receiver in a single offense. On top of that, he also had 30% of his plays in college go for 20 plus yards. And this speaks to the competition a little bit, but like that's still ridiculous at any level. So I love him. He's probably my favorite player at this position. And he's going to be my guy for this position, but like he's not my number one just because of the level of competition. That's really it. And maybe a little bit of nuance in terms of he could still grow, but I love him. I love him a lot. Now I don't even know if I showed the strengths and the weaknesses, but yeah, basically everything I just said. The guy is a freak show. The weaknesses I had was some concentration drops. Definitely got him at times. I'm not sure about his short route tree and lower level of competition, but the strengths are just off the charts good. So Christian Watson is definitely a first round receiver for me. I know he's getting that type of buzz now. Okay. And then we've got the number one receiver in the draft. And to me, this was pretty easy. I mean, I don't really understand people that are watching these tapes. I don't get it. Okay. It's Jameson Williams, guys. Like, I don't know what you're watching here. I don't know what people are watching. It's kind of obvious. Okay. I get it. He was hurt. He was hurt. He was hurt. He is hurt, I should say. But Jameson Williams, 6'1", 178. He's a difference maker. Like, he's got everything you want in a receiver. He's got this burning speed where he can split double coverage. Like, he's splitting double coverage versus SEC players. Like, okay. Like, tell me one time Wilson did that. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand. He's running a post. He's splitting the corner and the safety. He's getting yards after catch, turning the corner, running past everybody. He can run all the routes. short, intermediate, deep. And that's probably where he beats Watson in terms of he's just got more well-rounded to his game. But they are both just twitchy, fast, explosive, 4-2, 4-3 type receivers. And Williams has that as well. He snatches the ball in the air, full go, like slant can take it to the house because he just snatches it out of the air. He's gone, Odell Beckham type style. And to me, he is like a can't miss. He's too explosive and he's too good in every aspect. Like, he's not a great contested catch receiver, but because he's going to be able to separate so well, his speed is so good. If I was a team like the Chiefs and I just lost Tyreek Hill, this would be my guy that I was potentially looking at to replace him with. He's a punt and a kick returner, so he adds value as well if you want him to. He's got great stop-start ability in his routes. He's extremely, extremely sharp in terms of just snapping his route off and quickly creating separation at the top of his route. And he's also good at, while he's not a great contested catch guy one-on-one, he is, I would say, really good at adjusting to the ball. Like if the ball is low or the ball is high in the middle of the air, he can kind of adjust to the football to try to make that catch. I don't see many weaknesses with this game. The only thing you can really say, like, I think he's better than Devontae Smith. I think he's better than Jalen Waddle, maybe. He's really good. He's 6'1", 178. Maybe he's a little thin. He's a little thin. You could argue that might hurt him early in his career, like physicality-wise, off the line of scrimmage. He doesn't care about blocking, but I don't care about blocking that much, so I didn't really care. Like, I'm watching these YouTube cut-ups, right? And Jameson Williams is blocked, and that's all anybody can talk about in the comment. I'm like, are you watching the same highlights, the same clips, the same games that I'm watching? I don't care about blocking when you're the receiver. Like, yeah, that's nice to have. Like, would I like you to be Robert Woods? Cool. But, like, you don't got to be when you're this fast and this good at getting the ball and this good at running routes. I don't care. Okay? Randy Moss didn't block either. All right? Body control, smooth route runner, stop start, game-breaking speed, explodes through the ball, well-rounded route tree. He's the best receiver in the class. Bar none. Not that close. Jameson Williams is my guy. For sure. If I needed a receiver and I was in the top 10, I'd pick him. Yeah, I think he's better than Devontae Smith. Just my evaluation to the NFL. I'm not saying he was better in college. That's a different discussion. But I'm evaluating towards the NFL. I do think he's better going into the NFL. Just, he doesn't have those, like, weight issues that Devontae Smith did. That I think did hurt him in the NFL in his first season. I love Devontae Smith, by the way, so I'm not trying to, like, cut down Devontae Smith here, but I do think he is good. And he's like and it's funny because for whatever reason, he goes to Alabama, right? He wears the same helmet. And he's not getting near the buzz of somebody like Jerry Jeudy, who I definitely think he's more explosive. He's a better number one receiver than somebody like Jerry Jeudy. The hype for Jerry Jeudy was, like, immense. And I like Jerry Jeudy, don't get me wrong, but, like, I don't really understand why somebody like this is not being on the same level. Maybe it's the injury. But yeah, guys, I don't see where the Ohio State guys are really necessarily better than Jameson Williams. So maybe I'm totally wrong, but this is just my opinion, right? And like I said, I do tend to like the explosive receivers more. But I think Williams has, like, the route running and stuff like that too. So I don't know. But that's my top 5. So to reiterate my top 5 receivers in the class, which is going to be very different. I don't know. Some people will call it hot take-ish. I watched 12 receivers. The consensus top 12, whatever it was. Okay. So my top 5 is Jameson Williams, number 1, Christian Watson, number 2, Drake London, number 3, Garrett Wilson, number 4, and Skyy Moore, number 5. My honorable mentions are Burks, Olave, and Pierce. Okay? And then some of the other guys that I didn't mention, that I think are interesting that I did watch. If you guys want to ask me questions about any of them. The rest, Dotson from Penn State. I don't think he has the upside, so I didn't put him in my top 8. But I think he's like number 9 or number 10 stuff, like sort of thing. I think he could be a good, productive inside receiver. He gave me like Jameson Crowder vibes a little bit. Shifty, good in the intermediate, short areas of the field. He's got a good feel for zone coverage, smart player. He's tough. I think he'll be a good number 3, number 2, maybe, in his career. Calvin Austin was very fun to watch. He's a sort of the gadget player, but he's a little bit more than that. He's small, but he's fast, and he's really quick. I think he had an all-time 6.65 cone drill time. That's crazy to me. Like the 6.65 time on the cone drill is nuts. And yeah, Austin was really fun because he had return ability. He kind of looked like, who did he look like? I know like Tavon Austin is going to be the obvious because he has the same name, but I think he's a lot better than that. Like his ability to get open on the outside was shocking for a player that small. The only thing that really kept me back from putting him in the honorable mentions was his size. I just think he's too small, but he could be a good like 3rd round pick. I'd be really excited for a team to get him because he's definitely going to offer speed and agility and return value. Metchie is a guy that I like. He's just a pro like receiver. Like he's got a high IQ, technician of a route runner. He's going to be great on option routes. Like I think he's a great fit for New England, or potentially like a style of offense like that. I feel like he's got a little bit of versatility in the slot on the outside. He's not super explosive, but he's just a really technical, smart receiver. He could be good. I know he's also hurt. I watched George Pickens from Georgia, which was tough because I watched his 2020 film, not 2021. I don't know about him. He's getting some hype. He's big. He's got some speed, but he didn't wow me like some of these other guys did necessarily. I think he could be a boom bust type of guy. He kind of gave me Bryan Edwards type vibes where maybe he's a good shot to take in the middle rounds, but I don't view him as ever being a number 1 receiver. He could maybe be a good number, like he could maybe be a number 2 if he hits his ceiling, but he certainly has that profile of being maybe potentially pretty good. Jalen Tolbert, I was just going to say, I watched a little bit. I can't say I watched a ton of him. 6'1", 194. He gave me like a thicker Robbie Anderson vibe. His play strength was really good. He impressed me with his strength. He did have inconsistent hands from what I saw, but he had a good speed and strength, so that's something to look at. Potentially a perimeter X type of receiver. Maybe like a 3rd round, 4th round type guy, it feels like. I'm not sure if he's going to be 2nd round. I haven't watched enough of him, though, to really give a true evaluation, but just from what I saw, he was decent. But that's most of the guys. I went over Pierce, Olave, I went over Burks, and why they weren't on the list. If you guys have any questions about anybody that was on the list or not on the list, you want me to clarify anything, let me know in the comments. Yeah, the hype is definitely low for this draft class, but it's been pretty fun to watch these guys. It just takes some time to be able to watch them and then make a list and then go over it. All right. Well, thanks guys for watching. I appreciate everybody watching and appreciate everybody tuning in here live. Let me know in the comment section below if you have any questions or your opinion on your top 5. Give me your top 5 in the comment section below. It's Mitch of the Bottom Line View. We will see you in the next video. I'm not sure what the next position will be that I'll evaluate. I'm not sure if I will do another video like this evaluating players. I might just continue to evaluate them and then post the notes on Patreon and stuff like that, and then make some mock drafts with it. But if you guys want to see a specific position, corners, DNs, whatever it is, let me know in the comments and I will get around to it. Yeah, But mock drafts will be coming for sure. More team, like NFL team, their needs and certain fits that I think would be nice. For sure, that type of stuff. Obviously, that's kind of suitable to this channel a little bit more than the draft evaluation. But make sure to check out the Instagram. We're putting up stuff for the draft on Instagram, so make sure to give us a follow there. Also, Patreon. Link is in the description. I'll be posting all of my notes for my evaluations for the draft. I just did quarterbacks. I put that out today. I'll put out receivers tomorrow. For all patrons, all Patreon members for the BLV, $3 will get you all of my evaluation notes. So it's just me putting down my random thoughts about the player, and that's what I read off in these videos. Big board, Nicholas Gill says, probably closer to the draft. Probably like the week of the draft, I'll be able to do a big board because I won't be able to evaluate all the players before probably until like the week of the draft. And then I'll have a good enough, probably like the top 100 where I'll have a good enough feel of all the players. But yeah, punter evaluations? I don't think so. I wouldn't know shit about that anyways. Team mock drafts, I don't know if I'll, like, I'm not going to lie here, right? So I'm not going to be one of those guys that like goes through a team mock draft, but I know nobody in the 5th round. Like, you know, like how am I guess I could give them a player and go off other people's evaluations, but I don't know about that one. Maybe. I'm definitely going to do like team needs and stuff like that and go through things that they should do in the draft. And then ultimately it's their preference to who they pick. But that's everything, guys. Hopefully you liked this video. If you did, Gronk spike the like button and we'll see you in the next one. It's Mitch. Peace!